Howdy do y'all, it is Low here, welcome back to another video. We're doing something a little bit different today. Having the camera up, but I won't have it on for a lot, I guess, because I'm doing a video on my top 5. It's a top 5 for, first off, that's fucking different. It's a top 5 songs from Spongebob Squarepants, Battle for Bikini Bottom. Now, I did actually do this video a long time ago. It was like, I want to say five or 6 years ago, and I'm gonna be honest, it was kind of trash. Okay, it wasn't that bad compared to the grand scheme of things. Compared to a lot of my older videos, it was actually kind of good, but it was still bad. So I'm redoing it today. You know, I think I'm a little bit more musically inclined now. Have you heard of this obscure indie band, Death Grips? Sick! But not only that, but also I've wanted to do some kind of video series where I talk about game soundtracks because, you know, I like games, I like music, let's fucking mesh them together, you know? But anyway, I'm actually doing this based on the Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated soundtrack. I bought it on Steam. It's only like $5, so if you really like this soundtrack, I would recommend that. You get uncompressed files of both the original soundtrack and this remastered, slightly re-recorded in spots, I believe, soundtrack. But it's still great. I would definitely recommend it. And yeah, just kick back, relax, and enjoy my top 5. So at number 5 here, I actually have the Bikini Bottom theme. This is the theme that plays in the hub area. It also plays in Sand Mountain. I had this way higher in my original list. It was like number 2. And just because it's at number 5 obviously doesn't mean I don't like it anymore. I mean, it's in my top 5. I still think it's a great track. It's classic, you know, it reminds me definitely of the game. But I do feel it was a bit overused in most of the game, and it kind of led to, like, you know, oh god, this theme again, Jesus. But that being said, it does have this really nice feel just throughout the entire thing. Right off the bat, like, as soon as it starts, you just get hit with this super joyous melody. And it's played on this kind of, like, whistling instrument. I'm not very good at identifying instruments, so if you could tell me what it is, you know, that'd be fucking awesome. But the track just skips along so gleefully, you know, it's so hard to not just feel the serotonin just fucking rush in, like, as soon as you hear this. You know, especially if you have, like, nostalgia for this game, I feel like this song would be, like, the one to, like, trigger that most. The instrument selection overall for this is pretty solid, you know, you got these nice, happy-go-lucky kind of drums just pounding along here. And this slide guitar that comes in, you know, just kind of accentuates the entire thing instead of, like, taking the limelight. And of course there's going to be a slide guitar on a lot of these tracks because it is, you know, just like the show's songs and production music, you know, it has that, like, Hawaiian tinge to it. So of course there's going to be a slide guitar, even some, like, ukulele here and there. But, you know, it's all I really have to say about this one. I think it's pretty good. It's not as good as number 2 like I had it originally, but it's still a great track. Definitely deserving of being on the top 5. And it is serotonin incarnate. It is happiness incarnate. It's actually just it's a gleeful banger, and it's at number 5. At number 4, I actually have Jellyfish Fields. This is the exact same spot as it was last time, so there you go. I still think it's a fucking great track. It is one of those essential tracks from the game. You know, a lot of people know this one, probably because it plays in the first area that you go to. So maybe people that didn't beat the game, they at least remember this track. But you know, it is just absolutely amazing. It has that feel that a lot of these tracks have, where it could just easily be on the show itself, and you could remember it being on the show, and you might not even remember that was in a game. It's just like, it oozes that SpongeBob feel. I can't really describe. If you know, you know, but like, I don't really know exactly how to describe the SpongeBob feel. But one of my favorite parts about this track is that slide guitar that just, it's like through the entire thing, and it just has this nice way that it like carries the melody, and it even like messes with it at times, kind of like adds its own ornamentations, and it just like, it feels like a somewhat dynamic performance, you know, even though obviously this was all like composed and arranged and all this. It just has like this really nice like feel when you even just listening to it, like outside of the game's context. It's just like a great track, and I love that snappy percussion throughout the whole thing. You know, it's in my original video I had this like really cringy thing where I was like, sometimes you just want to move along to the music. It was really bad. It was really bad. But I do kind of agree with my past self. You can very easily just vibe, dance along to this. It's a great track for doing that, and I don't think it really deserves to not be in the top 5. So it's at number 4. There you go. So at number 3, I have Industrial Park. Now this is a new entry, never before seen on my original list even, and it's a lot of people's favorite boss theme, and is also my new favorite boss theme. It's just like, there's a few like of these atmospheric tracks on this soundtrack, you know, Rock Bottom, Kelp Forest almost to an extent, and as far as those tracks go, this one is probably my favorite. It doesn't really want to be like this memorable, well, it does want to be memorable obviously, but it doesn't want to be like this catchy, you know, like, I love listening to this. It genuinely does try to unsettle you, I feel, and it's just like, it does that so well. There's these static sounds that are kind of prevalent, especially in the beginning, and it's just fucking like, it's this killer like robot that looks like your best friend. Like, holy shit, this is this is genuinely terrifying. And this track just builds so well. Like, you have these like cascading like little riffs and melodies just kind of going along. There's this theremin sounding thing. It may actually be a theremin. That, of course, you know, when you want to fucking have this eerie atmosphere, just put a fucking theremin in the track. There you go, boom. And there's also a choir here that really adds a lot. I love the choir, especially in the last half of the track. It's actually pretty epic, for lack of a better term, but you really don't get to hear this a lot when you actually play the game, because if you know how to do the fight, it goes pretty fast and it resets after every phase, so you never really get to hear this part, which kind of makes me sad, because it really is like just one of the best parts of the track. But even still, I love the build up here. I love the addition of certain instruments. You get, obviously, like I said, the theremin, the choir. There's some orchestral stuff going on here too, and it all kind of pulls together for that last part where you get this like I said, that choir that just fucking hammers you with just like the whole feel of it all. And yeah, that was a pretty horrible explanation, but once you hear this track, you kind of get what I'm trying to say with it all. It is just like such a fitting track for the area, a fitting track for the boss, and it really is one of the more unique tracks on the whole soundtrack, and I really grew to appreciate it a lot more than I originally did back in 2016 or whatever. So it is now at number 3, and it is the only boss theme that is on this top 5. Spoilers. Holy moly, this one was a grower. At number 2, we have Downtown Bikini Bottom. And I originally had this at the top of my honorable mentions list in my original video. That's why it played in the transitions for that video. But it's all the way here at number 2 now. And I really, despite it being so high up on the list, it's kind of hard for me to talk about what makes it so good, because it's not really like a guilty pleasure, but it's just one of those tracks that doesn't really have the right to be as good as it is. When you feel it, you really know what I'm talking about here. It just has this really nice, kind of like strutting along pace through the whole thing. And it's like Bikini Bottom theme, where it just has such a nice, like, happiness aura about it. And that's so vague, but when you hear it, you'll kind of know what I mean. There's this slide guitar solo that comes in pretty early, like about a minute into the song or so. And I swear it genuinely made me want to learn slide guitar. And like, the whole track really does have this, it does have like these brass instruments. I believe they're brass instruments that are the main focus, you know, besides the slide guitar solo. And it kind of gives like off a jazzy feel almost. It's not quite that, obviously, because jazz is an entirely different beast. But it still does have that nice little sound with the band in the background. I believe the rehydrated version even like expanded it and like added more instruments. I may be wrong. The rehydrated version added a lot of instruments and things to a lot of tracks here. I'll get into that a little bit more in a second, but the point is, oh my goodness, Downtown Bikini Bottom, number 2, it is entirely deserving. I can't really explain to you why, but it's all my opinion anyway. You may have a different list, obviously, but that being said, we still have one more to get to. Before we get to it, I hate to kill the vibe, kill the momentum here. We gotta get some honorable mentions out of the way. I didn't actually talk about honorable mentions in my last video, but I want to now because I have a few that I kind of want to explain. I'm not going to go super in depth, but yeah. My first honorable mention, my highest one, it'll probably play in the transitions in this video, I'm guessing. It is the slide theme. I actually used this video for my outro theme for a while. If you heard that, then you know. But yeah, slide theme. I don't know what it is with 3D platformers and having like dedicated slide themes, but they're always fucking bangers, like every time. I just love how this one, you know, most of the soundtrack goes for this kind of laid back feel, obviously, because it's like SpongeBob, but this one literally just wants to be all out rock, and I'm here for it because it pulls it off super well. The electric guitar, of course, has some really tasty riffs and also some pretty good licks and solos here and there. And the slide guitar even makes an appearance to kind of tie it back into the rest of the soundtrack. Even some great drums and bass here as well. They serve really nicely just to keep the whole thing going at a nice pace. And it's just a rocker. It is just a rocking track. And it is all around a great time. Sadly, you don't get to hear it a lot because the slides are pretty short in this game, but it is great. It is great. I love it, and it is one of my honorable mentions. Another honorable mention I have, of course, Poseidon. I had this at number 3 on my original list, and it's another kind of all-out rock setup that just ends up going super hard. Of course, it should go hard because it's a boss theme, but I do have it in an honorable mention now because, you know, listening back, I kind of find it just a little bit cheesy, you know? I mean, Slide is pretty cheesy too, I won't lie, but Poseidon kind of just has a little bit more of that kind of cheesy feel. Not that it's bad, obviously. It makes my honorable mentions list, so it's not like a bad track at all to me. But I do feel that there are better ones here, obviously. I can still jam to this every now and again, though. I love the guitar work here. It's pretty sick, you know, there's some pretty cool solos. Even the drums on this rehydrated version sound a little bit different. They kind of have this like static tinge to them, which you can probably pick up on if you play them, if you play the original and the rehydrated like side by side. And it just kind of adds, because, you know, of course, static robots, blah blah blah, you know, Industrial Park did it too, so why not beside them, right? But, you know, it's still a good track. It's just not one of my favorites. It's my second honorable mention. And my last honorable mention that I'm going to talk about is the Chumbucket Lab theme, or just the Chumbucket theme, I guess. I had it at number 5 on my original list, and this one I find especially cheesy, like Poseidon, like up to here, because of course it goes like for this all-out orchestral sort of thing, because it's the final boss. But I still do find it good. I can appreciate its grandiosity, even if it's not really for me. And it still has some pretty good moments. I love the whole like second half of the track where it all comes together, and it's just all so like, it's all so urgent in that second half. It's kind of crazy. You usually don't, you may hear it, I guess, in the boss fight, even though the boss fight can be a little bit short, because, you know, it's a SpongeBob boss battle. It's they're usually pretty easy to figure out. But it's still a really fitting theme. I still appreciate it, and that's my last honorable mention. Now, without further ado, we'll get to number 1. Alright, so I hate to be redundant and almost have like an anticlimactic ending to this list, but I could not really find another track as good as this one, even 5, 6, whatever years later. It is Flying Dutchman's Graveyard. Oh shit, this one is fucking great. It is one of the most progressive tracks here, and by that I mean it has moments where it actually shifts. Of course, you all know the one part. If you know, you know. I'm gonna play it later in this video anyway, so you'll know. But it just goes, woo! And it kind of makes the looping aspect of it weird, because like when when it loops back to the beginning, it kind of resets the progression, and it kind of almost ruins the feel. But listening to this one outside of the context of the soundtrack, it's one of the best listens, bar none. The atmosphere on here is one of my favorites of pretty much any song on the soundtrack. Industrial Park is pretty fucking close, but this one has those orchestral instruments that come in, and there's even some of those just like, I guess, ghostly sounds. They may be synthesized or something, but they are a great part of this track. Of course, it's with the Flying Dutchman. It all kind of builds up and up and up, and then it just releases. And one of my favorite moments on this entire soundtrack, you get this electric guitar coming in, these fucking, those ghostly noises, you know, they're coming in too, like they kind of fade out sort of, and then it's just like this epic orchestral line sort of, and then it goes into this accordion solo, and I'm not even joking, it's literally one of the best parts of the track. The accordion solo literally ties everything together. Not ties everything together, but it almost like acts as the omega release of the whole thing. Because like almost right after that, the track kind of ends. It kind of fizzles out sort of. In a good way, of course. It is one of my favorite tracks of the game, obviously. Why else would it be on here? And I really just cannot find any other track on the soundtrack that really compares. Obviously, Downtown Bikini Bottom number 2, it kind of compares in a different way, but as far as what Flying Dutchman's Graveyard sets out to do, it is so ambitious almost for a kid's, like, it's just literally a kid's game, it's a SpongeBob game, and it just works really well. It is number 1, and I love it to death. That's it for my video. Hope you enjoyed. I just realized I probably won't be using this camera a lot, footage a lot, because I look like shit. But thank you very much for watching, and what are your top 5? What's your number 1? I don't care. Just tell me some of your favorite tracks in this game if you've played it. Even if you haven't, I'd love to hear if you've listened to the soundtrack or not. And let me know if you want to see more of these top 5 songs videos. I have one other one that I want to do that I kind of have set in stone. But if you'd like to see more, I'm only going to do ones for games that I've played because context can be key sometimes. But if you have a suggestion, I'd be happy to do it. And I am going to leave it at that. Have a great night, great day, whatever it is for you, and please take care. See you next time.